Say from personal experience, the Central African Republic is a very, very difficult place to get to. The Robert Spiers Benjamin Award for reporting in Latin America is sponsored by JetBlue. The citation goes to John Lee Anderson of The New Yorker for The Distant Shore, and the winner is the PBS NewsHour team of Nadja, Drost, Bruno, Federico, Morgan Till, Patti, Parson, and Sara for the fight for peace. Correspondents Nadja Drost and Bruno Federico were the first journalists to gain access to rebel camps in the Colombia's jungle since peace negotiations between the insurgency and the Colombian government began in 2012, and were able to bring viewers the perspective of how rebels were preparing for an eventual peace deal long before other journalists.
Thank you to the OPC for this award. We are very honored to be here with you. When the Colombian government began negotiating a peace agreement over 5 years ago with the rebel group FARC, we wanted to tell the story of how the peace process was playing out on the ground, far away from the negotiating table in Cuba, and how it was being perceived by the rebels who were still at war in the jungle and by inhabitants in the isolated regions where the Colombian conflict continues to simmer. At the time, the guerrilla were still very close to receiving journalists in their jungle camps, and after a year of efforts, we were granted our first visit and started to understand their clandestine life, their fear of military persecution, examining our bags for microchips planted by military collaborators, to being constantly on the move, making a new bed of fern leaves on the jungle floor almost nightly. Seeing them in their closed world of green is what made it so astonishing to later see rebels walking through town, interacting with inhabitants and discussing at a special gathering of hundreds of rebels and civilians their hopes and concerns of a peace deal that finally seemed like a real possibility. War had made those kinds of scenes impossible. Imagine our surprise to see combatants and civilians not only dancing together, but to the rhythms of the FARC's own salsa band, aptly named the Rebels of the South. They could rehearse only when it rained, so the din of rainfall would drown out their music to any nearby military. Luckily for their future audiences, it rains a lot in the jungle. Having lived in Colombia for nearly a decade, it has been a real privilege for us to report on such a historic moment in the country, one that holds as much possibility of peril as promise. We would not have had this privilege without PBS NewsHour. The commitment of Sara, the deft editing of Patti Parson, and the tremendous work of Morgan Till, who took an immediate interest in this story when Bruno and I first approached him and has been with us at every step. We commend the NewsHour for giving these stories the resources and airtime to explore the issues that make implementing a peace deal so challenging for Colombia. The rapidly rising number of assassinations of social leaders serve as a sobering reminder that true peace will not come easily nor swiftly for Colombia, and that the story of how to end a conflict of 52 years will continue to deserve our attention. Thank you so much for yours, and to the OPC for this true honor. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.